completely different type of person than we've ever seen in Christianity. Because the people they're talking to are completely different than any that have ever listened to the gospel before. And he said that nothing we've done in the past is ever going to work in the future. He goes, so it's going to take someone who is willing to teeter on the edge and fall off the edge sometimes to reach people, because they're going to see that as real. And he said, and you're going to get a lot of grief for it, because Christians, meaning anyone older than you, are going to be offended by what you do. At some point, you will offend everybody who's older than you. However, if you don't offend the Christians that have gone before you, then you're doing what they did and you're not doing anything new or special. So God doesn't need you anymore, because they could just, people can just go see the videos or hear the teaching tapes, you know. There's nothing new, they don't need it. And so I told him, I go, well, it's just really hard for me, because when I'm preaching, just like in my real life, I'm afraid what's going to fly out of my mouth. And he said, well, what's the thing you're most afraid of coming out of your mouth when you're preaching? And I said, well, I'm afraid of saying the F word. I'm afraid I'm going to drop an F-bomb. And he laughed and he goes, I hope you do. He goes, I hope you do. Man of God says this to me. Man of God old enough to be my dad. Man of God in ministry 60 years. Spirit-filled, amazing guy. Said, I hope you do. And I go, why? And he goes, well, first off, you won't worry about it anymore. Second off, you'll find out the sky's not going to fall if you do it, and you're going to still be saved the next morning. And lastly, you'll finally be speaking English. He goes, you go to church, even our church, and everybody speaks so cleanly and nicely, and then we wonder why there are no gang members getting saved. We're not speaking the language of the land. And I said, I'm sorry. Am I being encouraged to cuss? I'm serious. I said this. I said, this is great. I said, can I have that? Can I record this? Can I have this in writing? He said, go out and enjoy your ministry. Go out and enjoy your ministry. Go out and be fearless. Go out and realize that you're going to say and do things that even you wish you hadn't. But the beauty of it is you only have to do it once. If you don't feel good about it afterwards, don't do it again. But find out where the boundaries are. Find out where God is in what you're doing. I'm telling you, boundaries, I'm starting to have no idea what that means. I'm starting to have no idea what the word boundary means, because I have my own. Everybody does. And they seem to go just fine with where God has me. And I think, while the schmuck who posted on my Facebook page something very insulting about my Chuck Norris sermon, and by the way, it wasn't even factual what was posted. I know what I did, and I did it. But I know someone like that would say, well, isn't that convenient that God's boundaries are your boundaries? You know? And to that I would say, well, it is convenient if God and I happen to be in the same place after 30 years. After 30 years of me bowing before Him, it would be a little convenient if every once in a while, this is as far as I want to go. And He says, that's good, because that's exactly as far as I'd like you to go. We're on the same page. God forbid, I'm on the same page as my Lord after serving Him for 30 years. God forbid I actually cook the right thing at the right time. God forbid. I'm serious. Serious. I think we, meaning not me, because I'm not like this, but I think Christians have come to a place where we want to inflict failure and condemnation on everything. That for some reason, and I used to say this because it makes us feel better, I don't think it makes anybody feel good. I really don't. I'm done. I don't think this person who posted that on my Facebook felt better because she was condescending and stupid and hurtful. I don't think she felt better. I don't think she felt more righteous. I don't think you can feel more righteous than she already feels. You know what I'm saying? This was an overflow of self-righteousness. So I don't believe that. And I don't think she's jealous of me one bit. All those things we said, they just want to make themselves feel better. They're jealous of you. No, I think it's just habit. Plain old habit. It's just sin. Nothing good, nothing bad, nothing to come of it. It's just how we are. For some reason, we want to blanket everything around us with our condemnation. And we want to point out everything's failure because when you mentioned the F-bomb in that sermon, I couldn't help but notice that you said every single second of this was good except 1 second. There's a big difference between pointing out there was one thing that really bothered me, Paisley. A big difference between that and I heard what you did and all that foul language. I hope you're proud of yourself. That's not what happened on that sermon. The sermon was almost 2 hours long and it had 1 second, one brief moment of impropriety that, by the way, I'm really proud of. But I do own it. I do own it. But it wasn't out of control and it wasn't riddled with profanity. That's not true. No. Just at the height of the best moment, I decided to hit one out of the park. All I can say is being circumcised in the heart is an act of faith. And faith and what happens in the carnal world sometimes don't make sense together, do they? Sometimes a man can be of incredible faith and have a heart for God. And he could push his best friend out into battle to get him killed so he can have his wife that he's been sleeping with. Because that's what happened to David. And God said, this is a man who has a heart for me. God praised David, and David was an adulterous murderer. And I don't think he improved much with age. I don't think he became something. I don't think he took the Paul road. You know what I'm saying? I think he was always a mess in the flesh. And I think that all Christians are pretty messy in their flesh. And I think that it's the mutilation of all things spiritual that they're judged according to things of the flesh. On the subject of profanity, I think Jesus as a cuss word, God as a cuss word, is profanity. I don't think the F word is profanity. I don't care what it means in Webster. But when the Bible says to avoid profane things, I don't think the F word is one of them. I just don't. So sue me. I did, because every single cuss word is either a bodily function, a sexual act, or something that has to do with God or hell. That's the reality. Everything. Every cuss word. I got in trouble when I was on radio because I used friggin'. I said, it's friggin' hot. Someone came right in and said, you can't do that. I said, what do you mean I can't say friggin'? They said, because everybody knows what you mean. I said, well, that's friggin' stupid. Gosh, for frog's sake. You know, I mean, really? I was like, really? Guess what? You can say friggin' on the radio now. And Christians love to take a little bit of the truth and mix in a big fat lie and use it to blanket other people with condemnation and failure. That sounds just like Satan. That's the mutilation. That is the mutilation of all things spiritual, filtered through all things flesh. I have had an amazing ride with God. I'm very sorry for a lot of things I've done, just not the things that people think I should be sorry for. I'm incredibly sorry for a lot of things I've done, and I have enormous regrets for things I haven't done. First and foremost, using a bad word on one record when I didn't use a bad word on that one record. If I had it to do over again, I would do it. But I love the record, but I do wish I had stuck to my guns. Because even the person that was recording me that didn't want me to do it came back later and said, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have argued with you. I shouldn't have pulled rank on you like that. But you know what? I have to live with what I've done, and I have to stand before God with what I've done. But the one thing that I do know is that my heart's been circumcised. I know that I've given my heart to the Lord. Doesn't mean I don't take it back daily. It doesn't mean I don't sin. It doesn't mean I don't fail. However, I am grafted into the kingdom. I'm part of the family of God. And according to everything I swear is in there, when I die, I will be face to face with the Lord for eternity. Now, that having been said, I don't take kindly to mutilated Christians. I have a real problem with it. Because I know how imperfect we all are. Because being that I think I'm better than everybody and I still think I'm imperfect, look how imperfect we are. Therefore, it bothers me. But I think this bothers God. I think that we are supposed to rejoice in the Lord and love one another and be humble and meek with one another and not be fault finders. We're not supposed to comb over everything everyone does. Even me, even if I put myself out there. You know what I'm saying? Even if I really do post a picture of me in the purple thong on Facebook, leave me alone. I'm the one who has to live with what I did. How come nobody gets it? That's the thing I don't understand. How come nobody gets that at the end of the day, you can't say something to someone that they haven't already said to themselves in their head? That's the thing I just have never gotten. Because I sure know that about people. I know, like, the I told you so dance just really doesn't do any good. You know, I love doing the I told you so dance with people, but have you ever noticed they don't really appreciate I told you so? That they're kind of like, I know you're going to say I told you so, but I really wish you wouldn't. How many times have we said that to people? Or have people say that to us? I think that this subject has come up more this year than I would ever thought I would preach on the same subject. And that is that we as Christians have two paths that we could go on. But in the long run, there's still time to change the road you're on. Come on, man, get my Led Zeppelin joke. It's really funny. Yes, there are two paths you can go by, but in the long run. All right. To get your stairway to heaven, guys, you have two choices. You walk in the Spirit or you walk in the flesh. And yeah, I know, we bounce back and forth all the time. I get it. But the majority of the time, are you walking in the Spirit, or the majority of the time are you lashing out in the flesh? That's the reality. And at some point, you look at your life and say, what has my life in the Lord been like? Mine's kind of like Candyland. That's all I can say is I look at it and I go, dang, very colorful, very interesting, full of surprises, and always something new around the horizon, and a lot of freedom to figure it all out. That's what I remember in my walk with the Lord, especially in the last 8 years. Just a tremendous amount of space to figure it all out. I've never felt any pressure from God. No deadlines, nothing. Anytime I felt pressure, he was like, am I putting pressure on you, Paisley? Because I don't remember setting your deadlines. Who set your deadline? Me. Well, you're not good at that. Math is hard. Why don't you remove the deadline? Why don't you remove that deadline? I've never had any person in my life relieve more stress than I've had God relieve stress from me in the last 8 years. So that's the only thing I can think of. When I was preparing for the California shows, I guys remember, I was sick for 3 weeks. That's my rehearsal period. I was so sick over the whole thing, and I was throwing up in my sleep. I was a wreck. And I said, I didn't set a deadline. I didn't set a deadline. And he said, yeah, you didn't set a deadline. But go look at your set list. Look what you did to yourself. Look what you did here. In the middle of the night. I'm going over my set list with the Almighty. And you say, why don't you cut that in half? Why don't you cut that in half? And then why don't you just do this? And then you work it. And he gave me a schedule of how to learn the songs and how to do it. And I went, wow. And he goes, now try sleeping. Who does that? Who does that? Who wakes you up in the middle of the night and says, you really need help? Let me reorganize everything you're doing because it's making you crazy and making you sick. Let me make it really easy. I know. Why don't you cast your burdens on me because I care for you? Oh yeah, Jesus said that. My experience with walking in the Spirit is sometimes he wakes me up in the middle of the night to make my life easier. You know what I'm saying? Who does that? And how often do we hear these stories? I don't. I mean, you know, seriously, I think that's unusual. Sure as hell wasn't me. I was a nut job. You know, once I get to that place of I'm a wreck, they call it wreck because you're wrecked. That's it. You can't fix it once you take the boat and bash it up against the rock. It's wrecked. I think that we all have a lot to answer to for our sin. And I'm hoping that Jesus was enough for it. Because he said he was enough for it. But I don't think anyone has lived such a great life that they should point out the sins in others. I really don't. I mean, yeah, sometimes you have to talk to someone. Yes, you do. But we're not talking about love here. We're not talking about friendship. We're talking about spiritual abuse. We're talking about a mutilation of brotherhood that comes in the form of condemnation in the guise of Christianity. And in the end, it's deformed, it's mutilated, it's evil, it's satanic. But it makes damn good sermons. Thank you all very much. I had a wonderful night. Shame on you bad people. Don't be bad anymore. I hope I didn't embarrass you or make you feel singled out because, you know, compared to her, you were nice. But I can find someone compared to you that you weren't. But that having been said, seriously, thank you all very much. Please support this ministry. PaisleyYankolovich.com. Send money. If not, well, what can I promise? If you don't send me money, nah, I'm just kidding. Thank you all very much. You better stop before I say something stupid.